This episode is presented by Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. Play on the new consoles with updated graphics and features, and wield the Yamato by playing as Virgil, Dante's twin brother. Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch 2020, our show that all year long has been following every news bit and every rumor on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S, which of course are now technically current gen consoles, but there's going to be a lot of overlap between these two generations for quite a long time, probably. So for the time being, we'll continue to refer to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and X as next gen consoles. I am, of course, Damon Hadfield, and as always, I'm joined by Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast, Podcast Unlocked.
It's a fantastic week, Damon.
Very exciting week. And Jonathan Dornbush, host of IGN's PlayStation podcast, Podcast Beyond.
We did it. We finally made it.
We watched the consoles. We watched the next-gen consoles all year long, and now they're here, and we can watch them from the comfort of our own homes. This is the week. Many of you watching out there have a next-gen console now in your home. You've been playing some games. I know a lot of people are still trying to get one. They're still scarce, still hard to get, but they're officially now out in the wild, and I think we should start talking about the games that we can play now on our shiny new boxes. Let's discuss a few of the promising launch lineup games, and several of these have already been reviewed by IGN, which we can mention. A big one this week, it was Assassin's Creed Valhalla, one that our reviewer Brandon Tyrell reviewed. Thought it was great, gave it an 8 out of 10, and I've actually been playing probably a dozen hours or so right now, which in a game this big, I think it still technically puts me in the tutorial section of the game. But in the time so far that I've spent with it, I agree with Brandon's review. An 8 seems about right for me, at least that's for the time that I've spent with it. Very much the modern style of Assassin's Creed game, which is more of an open world RPG. And stealth has been de-emphasized as compared to the earlier Assassin's Creed games, but that shouldn't be a shock to anyone who's played Origins and Odyssey. Definitely a very pretty game, and I think especially on Xbox Series X. I haven't seen the PlayStation 5 version, but at home I've been playing on PS4. I don't want to ruin this illusion for everyone, but this episode is being taped on Wednesday, the day before my PS5 is scheduled to arrive. So I've been playing on PS4 where it already looks very good, but I did a live stream on IGN with Max Scoville, and on Series X, Assassin's Creed Valhalla looks amazing. So that's definitely one I think you're going to want to fire up and show off your next-gen consoles. Jonathan, you reviewed Spider-Man Miles Morales for PlayStation 5, and I think you liked that one quite a bit.
I did. I gave it a 9. I called it amazing. I think it is a really fantastic Miles Morales story in its own right. I think it's a really great continuation of the series because for me, at least personally, it is definitely a smaller package. But what it does, it is improving a lot upon sort of the basics and the foundations of Marvel Spider-Man from PS4. So there's a lot more varied combat in there. The side missions, while there's less of them, feel more specific and more sort of in tune with the story of Miles trying to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. There is a pretty great variety of suits and suit powers, whereas in the first game there were a lot of suits, but the powers that came with them, I pretty much ended up using only 1 or 2 of them. I've used a lot more now. It really smartly advances the franchise while also being this just a fantastic Miles story, which is really impressive in its own right because, coming right off the bat or the back of Into the Spider-Verse, close to 2 years now, that movie still looms large, I think, in sort of what people think of when they think of Miles Morales. But this finds its own niche within that character and finds a way to tell its own engrossing story with him.
And have you gotten to take a look at Spider-Man Remastered yet?
I have, yeah. It is functionally essentially the same game as the PS4 one, but it does bundle in all 3 episodes of The City That Never Sleeps, the DLC that came post-launch, and all the free sort of bonus content that came after launch, like some new suits and everything. It is beautiful. It's one of those things where this is the same game on a gameplay level-wise, but Insomniac pretty much relit the entire game, did updates to the facial animations and the hair, the teeth, everything about sort of the faces of the main characters has been updated and elevated. And it does really come across, I think one of the best things that game did was the chemistry between Peter Parker and Mary Jane. And even though Peter has a new face in this game, which maybe this is a hot take, but I actually kind of prefer the new face now. The chemistry between them felt so fresh and new, even though I've played this game multiple times. I think because of the elevated realism and the more defined and nuanced performance they're able to capture there. And also just the city is gorgeous. I did a car chase in the middle of Times Square, which car chases are probably the most prevalent crime that I did when I first played the game, and the one I became the most bored with after 50 of them. But the ray tracing in full effect in the middle of Times Square, reflecting everything off the cars and the buildings and everything, made that one of the most cinematic experiences in the game so far. And it's just a, random crime on street level. It's really impressive technical work there. And the fact that this is only on launch day makes me so excited for what's to come.
Now, Ryan, I believe you've been working on a review of the single player campaign for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War.
Yes, indeed. That is going to be out by the time everybody hears this. And I thought the campaign was good. Gave it a 7, which is lower than what I gave Modern Warfare's campaign last year. I went with an 8 there. But there's a lot of interesting stuff in this. I think really the big takeaway, if you enjoy Call of Duty campaigns, as I do, is Raven and Treyarch, specifically Raven, because they're the lead developer on the campaign, did a really good job of not only adding more interesting downtime to Call of Duty. It's not just all shooting all the time, but really, in fact, the non-combat moments are the best part of Black Ops Cold War. And that's not to speak ill of the combat. It's still the traditional Call of Duty combat that you're familiar with, but they've got these between mission sequences where you're in your safe house and you can talk to your covert ops teammates, and there's multiple dialogue options when you talk to each one. There are these little evidence-based sort of secret kind of puzzle things, like basically little bits of spy work you can do. And the best mission, I won't spoil it for you, any details anyway, but you have to infiltrate the KGB undercover effectively. And there are no guns involved at all. You have to sort of sneak and stealth and talk your way. And you can choke out people and then hide their bodies in storage lockers and such. And it's a total curveball for Call of Duty. I mean, we did see there was a similar mission, also my favorite mission in Call of Duty World War II, but it's kind of really blown out here and it plays super well. So yeah, good stuff in the campaign in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Now, unfortunately, I haven't, just by the way the timing of the review went, I played it on my pretty good new PC and it looked gorgeous there. I'm curious to see how it looks on the Series X and on the PS5. And I know it's doing some interesting stuff with the DualSense on PS5 with specifically each gun is supposed to have sort of a different kind of haptic response in the controller, which sounds interesting.
And Jonathan, there's a few PS5 games I want to get your thoughts on. One, Bugsnax, which I believe is available to PS Plus subscribers on PS5. The Pathless, a game that you also reviewed. And then there's Sackboy, A Big Adventure.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff at launch for PS5 for people picking it up on day one. With Bugsnax, it is a really fun, surprising, emotional adventure. I'll say it is really funny and really wacky. And if you're coming into the game expecting all of the humor that you've seen in the trailers or with the theme song, you'll get that. But there is also a surprising amount of really human depth that comes with these characters, even in the midst of turning their hands into curly fries and graham crackers. It's a really, really smart blend of humor and emotional pathos. I adored it. The Pathless, I also reviewed and gave an 8. I called that great. It is a really unique movement system around an open world. It's definitely got some feeling of Breath of the Wild and Ghost of Tsushima's open world in it, but it is a unique take on that with a really cool bow and arrow movement mechanic that I definitely recommend you check out, and just a fantastic musical score. It's worth listening to alone. And then Sackboy: A Big Adventure is on PS4 and PS5, but it is, I think, a really great co-op game to jump into. I think this is going to be really great for families during the holiday. It's got a little bit of that wacky humor that you get with Lego games or with some of the new Super Mario Brothers games of hitting your co-op teammates and everything. But it's also a really, really delightful, charming game that I think takes the ideas and spirit of Sackboy from the Little Big Planet games and really just focuses in on making a fun platformer.
And lest we forget Demon Souls, I believe IGN's Mitchell Saltzman is working on his review for that. And Jonathan, I believe he's enjoying it, right?
Yes, yeah, he's definitely having a blast with it, and I can't think of a better person to be reviewing that than Mitchell, someone who is brilliant when it comes to analyzing combat mechanics in games, and especially Soulsborne. So I'm really looking forward to his full review. But he is absolutely having a great time with it. It looks incredible. I've seen some gameplay that he was playing of it. It looks gorgeous. It seems like a really, really marquee. Here's if you want to show off the technical power of what the PS5 can do at launch. This is a good example.
Now, Ryan, you've been singing the praises of NBA 2K21.
Yeah, I think that's on the Xbox side. I mean, it's multi-platform. It's certainly not exclusive, but 2K21 is a next-gen specific version, and boy, does it look good. I mean, it plays nicely too. And I know a lot of people take issue with NBA 2K with the sort of casino stuff, and I'm not speaking to that, but just as something to put in 4K 60 on your new next-gen console, on the Series X specifically, where I've been playing it. Boy, does it look good. I mean, some of the players look it's just insane how lifelike they look. Looks really great, plays excellently as well. And then I'll mention as well, Yakuza Like a Dragon. It's not quite a next gen showpiece because it is also available on current gen, but it is the only next gen console that you can play it on for a bit. It's not coming to the PS5 until March, I believe. And it's if you've never played it, which I'm in this bucket. I just started playing Yakuza for the first time with Like a Dragon on the Series X. It is an RPG through and through, and one that you have not played before. It's set in the modern day. It's very funny. It's very goofy. The cast of characters is very likable. It's nothing. It's like nothing out there, and it's definitely worth a look if you need a good RPG fix on your Series X.
Okay, so one of the benefits of both the next-gen consoles is that a lot of current-gen games are going to be looking better than ever when you play them on your PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X. Jonathan, we'll begin with you. What about one of the biggest PS4 exclusives that there is, God of War? Is that looking even better on PS5?
Yeah, God of War is a fantastic experience on particularly the PS4 Pro, but it's even better on PS5. The frame rate's running a bit more smoothly. Depending on what mode you chose on PS4, it could sometimes dip a little bit, but it's running more smoothly now, really taking advantage of upping everything with the sort of dynamic 4K resolution that the game was using on PS4. You get the sense that that's working behind the scenes just more throughout the entire experience, and it looks beautiful. And then when it comes to obviously using the DualSense, you're able to.
Yes,
I loved the feel of the axe in God of War. It was a big highlight of my review for me, and you do really get that sensation with the DualSense. I don't think it's something that's been integrated particularly into every bit of the game, but that sensation of the axe hitting with the adaptive triggers and with the haptic feedback feels even more impactful and even cooler, and gives you even more excuses to just keep throwing that thing all throughout the game. It's really fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how retrieving that axe feels with the DualSense. And I believe our IGN coworker Max Scoville was singing the praises of Dark Souls 3 to you as well.
Yes, yeah, we were talking a little bit before we recorded, and he's a huge Bloodborne fan and finally making his way through all the Dark Souls games. And I believe he was playing Dark Souls 3 and found that the frame rate was just running very smoothly when he was playing the PS4 version on PS5. And obviously that's a game where timing and your character animation and all that stuff really, really matters. So to know that the frame rate is running really stably and at a really high frame rate, he didn't have exact metrics, but I think it was running much more smoothly and stably than it does on PS4. That's really great for that franchise and for Soulsborne in general.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you were telling me that even smaller games, these graphical improvements aren't relegated to big AAA games. You were saying that Overcooked looks even better too as well. Is that right?
Yeah, so there's actually you can play backward compatible Overcooked, and then there's the Overcooked All You Can Eat Special Edition, which has been made for PS5 that bundles Overcooked 1 and 2, and so that's running at a stable frame rate. It's using a bit more of the 4K resolution than the original games were on PS4. It looks beautiful and it runs really smoothly. It runs so smoothly, in fact, that I'm kind of having to readjust the timing in my head to make sure I'm getting my character onto the right place in the game where it needs to be able to just deliver the right burger and not, accidentally throw it into the trash. But it's really snappy and works really well.
And then there's Devil May Cry Special Edition, which has received numerous graphical upgrades. Mitchell Saltzman is an IGN employee who reviewed Devil May Cry 5 for us, and he's been spending a lot of time with the Special Edition. Jonathan, I know you have as well. I want to get your thoughts. But Mitchell was saying there's actually several new graphical modes in Devil May Cry Special Edition that offer up a variety of options depending on your own personal preference. So there's Fidelity Mode, which is 4K with ray tracing turned on, but it's below 60 frames per second. And there's Performance Mode, which is 1080p with ray tracing turned on and consistently a smooth 60 frames per second. You can also opt to turn ray tracing off and play with a higher frame rate at 4K. And if you have a monitor or TV that supports it, you can also turn on high frame rate mode to get 120 frames per second while ray tracing is off. We should note that ray tracing is automatically disabled when playing the newly added legendary Dark Knight mode, which focuses on filling levels to the brim with enemies, or turbo mode, which makes the game run at 1.2 times the normal speed. I think you have to have a very keen eye to notice that difference. Mitchell Salzman is just the type of gamer that can notice that. Jonathan, I know you've been playing about an hour of Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. How have you been finding it?
Yeah, definitely. Mitchell is sort of the bellwether for me when it comes to being able to tell all those differences. And he's a huge DMC5 fan, has some great coverage on IGN that I definitely recommend people check out. But so far with my experience with the game, I've been playing definitely in the fidelity mode, really trying to get as much out of the visuals as possible since, messing around with the PS5 only in the first few weeks. I want to see what it can pull off. And definitely the ray tracing and the 4K resolution and all that makes a huge difference to me seeing it and looking back at PS4 footage. The reflections and everything are beautiful in the way that they're rendered in the world. It feels very naturalistic the way it's integrated. And the game's been running really smoothly for me. It plays and feels great on PS5. I, as someone who's only dipped a toe into the DMC waters throughout time, definitely want to keep going and playing with this one. It looks beautiful and plays really well.
Awesome. Now, Ryan, on the Xbox side, Gears 5 was already a very pretty game. How is it looking on the Series X?
Yeah, they've pumped it up nicely. I mean, it's on the multiplayer side. If you're an online multiplayer fan, versus mode runs at 120 frames per second, which, I mean, it's really, and I tried to break it. Like, I turned the controller sensitivity as high as it would go. It started whipping the camera around. Nope, completely smooth all the time. So yeah, versus looks great, but even the campaign too at 4K 60, it's just, you've got all these cool graphical effects, all the little lighting touches they've improved upon. They've really brought Gears 5 up to, like, if you just saw it for the first time, you probably wouldn't know that it was a last generation game. I mean, it definitely looks fantastic.
And it looks like you've got Forza running there behind you. Is that right?
Yes. One of my favorite games, period, on the Xbox One, Forza Horizon 4. Now, the Forza series overall has been great the whole generation. Forza Motorsport is your closed circuit track, hardcore simulation racer. So that's been 60 frames per second because they really focus on the smaller scale, but just the higher fidelity, higher frame rate. Forza Horizon, of course, is an open world driving game, less of a racing game, more of a driving game to split the difference. And so it's a big open world where you can go anywhere, but it's always been 30 frames per second. Well, the Xbox One X had a 4K option, but now on the Series X, they've gone in and optimized it, and it runs at 4K 60 in this stunning open world. So yeah, I mean, Horizon 4, if you didn't play it and maybe you're getting an Xbox Series S or Series X, and you've got the Game Pass free trial, or you decide to sign up, Forza Horizon 4 would definitely be one of the first games I would recommend because it looks and plays better than ever.
Well, there you have it. There's a few current gen game recommendations you can use to show off the graphics capabilities of your brand new next gen consoles. Okay, now before we get to our poll results this week, we have a very serious issue that we need to address. Apparently, Xbox Series X consoles, as they're getting into people's homes, apparently many consoles are smoking. There's actual smoke pouring out of the top of the consoles. Ryan, can you sort of explain the situation here?
Yeah, I don't know how or why, whether it's just Sony fanboys trolling or just guys that like to get high that decided to try and make it look like that their Xbox Series X was vaping. But the videos going around, things are going around like, oh, the Xbox Series X's are melting down. They're smoking. No, they're not. It's totally fake. There's videos up debunking it. And even Microsoft had to address this themselves, taking to Twitter to say, quote, "We can't believe we have to say this, but please do not blow vape smoke into your Xbox Series X." So there you go. Before it can become urban legend and spread like wildfire or wild vape smoke, it's not real. It's not a thing. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay, we have the results of our poll from last week where we asked you, what is the maximum amount you would pay for a subscription service to access all games on a console? Game Pass Ultimate is a great deal, but it doesn't give you access to all games. So I was a little surprised. The majority of respondents, 70%, said the maximum they would pay is $10 to $20 a month. Which, man, what a good deal would that be if for $20 a month you got access to every game on the console, a new console where new games are going to be costing $70 a piece. Oof, that would be a pretty sweet deal if you all could get that for $20 a month. New poll for next week. Which last gen game, PS4, Xbox One gen game, did you play first, or are you looking forward to revisiting most on PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X? Make sure to vote at IGN.com, and we will share the results with you next week. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here. We're in a new console generation, although there's going to be overlap between the two generations for some time, and that is a topic for a future episode of this very show. That's going to do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch 2020. Thank you to both Ryan and Jonathan. We'll be back next week, same time, Friday, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. More news on Xbox Series and PlayStation 5. We'll see you then.